Greetings! Welcome to Terror Prime Live Kung Fu Corner. So, tonight, for Kung Fu, we are going to be going over some upper body stuff. Last week we went over lower body things with stances and that kind of thing. Remember, there are 5 stances. We'll probably use 3 of those today. Maybe 4. We'll see what happens. And I'll show you one little one before going on that. Before we start, wanted to address something. I addressed it in another video. I don't know if it was Sword Lab or if it was Saber or what, but it is about the effortlessness in technique and all of that. How long do you practice before you start to see those types of things? And it's kind of the mind and the body kind of thing. As we're beginning, of course, our mind knows what we want to do, but our body can't really do it. So the commands come, but they don't. They result in nothing. Now, the thing is that the mind-body connection and all of that, I'm not a big believer in the mind-body connection, only because I don't believe in a mind-body distinction. So, the way I look at it, the mind is another process of the body. Right? The brain is a part of the body, everything is a part of the body. Therefore, both things affect each other because they're part of the same whole thing, which is what we consider ourselves to be. These are just pieces. Will this become easy for you? It probably won't become easy for you. Certain aspects of it may become easy for you, but the way training goes, especially within Kung Fu and martial arts in general, is you're always looking for the next peak. So when you get to the point where the first peak you achieved is easy, it won't matter to you. So it's the thing. If you try to attain that kind of effortlessness, it's a strange dichotomy. In Chinese, they call it Wu Wei, the act of non-action. Right? Literally, it means no action, do nothing. And it's that kind of, it harkens to that state. It's a little deeper than this, but it harkens to that state of semi-mindlessness, of the autopilot, when we go on our autonomic systems and all of that kind of stuff. When you get to a certain level, your training takes over, and what we mean are the habits and things that your training builds in you. It doesn't necessarily mean a specific movement or what have you. But what training should do is give you the tools to create movement, whatever movement you need at any time you need. And that's the hub. That's kind of the whole point. So, how should you take that? Just our motto here, of course, is patience, practice, perseverance. Right? Those 3 will get you a long way. But that's not really saying a whole lot, right? We're just like, keep with it. And that can be very difficult for some. The path can be especially difficult if you are doing things adequately enough, but you need more practice to it. And that's one thing. It's like I can do this, but it looks sloppy. It looks whatever. It doesn't come off, every time or whatever. Well, it's something that needs practice, right? Some polish. And just like polishing anything, just polish it. So the other thing too is I like to caution people in is trying to attain a mindless state while training is not exactly the point, I think. There are certain aspects where you can enter certain states, right? But oftentimes those states are reserved for the in our case, competition or sparring. When two people are going at each other, and then the time crunch becomes the thing that compresses everything. So when you train, and we're going to go over this today because these are all basic movements, right? We want to think about what are we working on. So it's technically our training should never become easy, because if it becomes easy, it means we're just kind of coasting, and progress is not made that way. Sometimes you have to coast, right? Like I said, for the practice, for the polish, and all that. I'm going to hang out here for a little bit, right? If you have trouble getting over a certain stumbling block, go back a little bit and just camp out at the previous level just a little bit longer, right? In weightlifting terms, it's called wave loading, right? Where you start with a weight there until that weight becomes easy. It's not easy, but you don't expend as much effort to lift it, and then you go up a rather significant amount, right? Rather than gradually. So you kind of load up, and now that's hard for you again, and then you do that again, and you just kind of camp out there until, okay, now this is there. It's definitely time consuming. It's definitely there. Pavel says that one of the benefits of it is it weeds out the undisciplined, and a lot of kung fu training in the past that has come to us now retains this kind of testing kind of thing, weeding out of that kind of thing. That's not really what we're into these days. So we try to take out those little things. Some of them are there for good reason, to build skill. And anytime you take a long time to build something, that's what Kung Fu means. Skill that is built over time, right? The passage of time builds the skill. There's nothing that can build that other than time. Now, guidance. If you're not getting good guidance, that time will be longer. That time could be indefinite, because they may not be able to give you the tools or the direction to get to your goal, and you need to find somebody who can. That's no problem. Happens to all of us. We've all done it. Anybody who's in the martial arts, unless they're specific, like my teacher, the great Ma Yu, his father was the great Ma Xinda, right? He had no choice in it. He was born into this. Whereas a lot of us have chosen this. We've taken this on. He incidentally thinks we're nuts that we took this on voluntarily. But hey, here we are, right? Anyway, so try not to fret it too much. When you're starting out, just pick a few tiny little things to focus on, right? I'm going to focus on my stance. I'm going to focus on this movement or whatever. Today is a movement which is going to be challenging for a lot of people. It is a challenging movement in some respects. Hopefully there'll be some people out there who find this a little bit more easy. But anyway, so let us begin. Anyway, okay, so we have, and I will switch to the wider cam when I get a little bit. I have to move around here a little bit more, but for this one, let's keep it. Anyway, okay, so let's begin. Just a quick review of the principles we went over last week with our lower body. Okay, so dip visit down a little bit so you can see my feet. There we go. Okay, so we've got our Mabu. Mabu, you straighten one leg, turn out that foot just a little bit, and now we've got Gongbu. Now here's something very important to remember. Straight on with this stance is going to depend on kind of what you're doing. Okay? If I am striking, okay, going here, this way is front. Okay? That means that I have sort of the side of my hip cocked toward that area. Right? Now, if I am, on the other hand, if I am looking to wrestle, right, the stance, the front is going to be going diagonally this way, right, where I'm squared off. And the distance between my heels will be the distance between my hips, okay, when I'm standing like this. Okay, I'll show you if I can get into frame and get lined up there. There. So you see the hip width or the shoulder width stance is there. Okay, so we've got Gongbu, right? We've got Mabu, we've got Gongbu, and now we've got twist, right? Now we started out punching, right? Okay? Then we drop down into Pubu. That's the third stance. Right here. Drop down. Blah. Yeah. Okay? So, we've got this movement. Right? This is training our hip movement. It's not too much, there's not much complicated going on here. Right? We did this. Right? Okay? Going back and forth. Here like that. Okay? That movement here. Right? Tongpei. Now this is where we get into some tricky language. Tongpei, yes, we will be doing exercises from Mashi Hongbei Chen. Hongbei, in that sense, means through cultivation or through perfection, or through hard work and through a specific type of training. Whereas this means through the back, and specifically through the shoulder blades, arms, deltoids, that part of the back. Okay? So that's what we're kind of looking at. So that's our basic motion with our upper body. We're going to add to that today. We're also going to be adding to this. Going from side to side here, using this as your base, okay, so that we can do it that way. And that will be the major portion of today's lesson, is that. Now, so that's what's going on with the hips. Mm-hmm. You can bring this up a little bit more. Okay, so that's what's going on with the hips. With the arms, now, like I said, we have this going. Right? We pull this one in, this one comes out, like they're on levers. Right? If I want to punch out harder, I can pull back harder, right? Okay. This is good for a couple of reasons. Number one, a lot of times we have an easier time with the concentric or the shortening of our muscles to do quick, right? Whereas our extension might be a little bit slower. Okay? If we do this, that's going to create that movement in the shoulders, and this is going to be pushed out. Okay? Just like that. Remember, we're keeping our arms relatively limp. Okay? So when you do the pull back, you're pulling back only with this, and you're just throwing this out and getting it there. Okay? Okay, so that's just the basic back and forth here. Okay, so now, we're going to get into the shoulders. I'm going to switch cameras here just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't know what that meant. Okay. So hopefully we'll stay in focus relatively well, please. Okay. Anyway, so our shoulders are going to be, and actually, I'll just turn that. I'm going to turn that off. So, okay, so our shoulder girdle, this whole area up in here. Okay. Before we get going, let's warm that area up. Okay, and talk about kind of how it works first. So, the first thing is rotation is a compound movement in the shoulder. Okay, so it's a combination of extension, abduction, adduction, flexion. All of this stuff is happening together because the shoulder is a three-dimensional joint. Okay, now if I'm here, I'll just stand up. Put my feet together here so we can get as much. You can isolate the shoulder as much as we can. So. Okay. Now they're frozen. Well, so much for that idea. Okay. Anyway, we'll go into here. I can sit down here to do the shoulder bit. Okay, so our shoulder here, right? You can do this. We can shrug it. All of that. That's going to connect to here, right? We often think of just this as the shoulder, but the shoulder is really kind of this whole thing. This is why we call it the shoulder girdle. It's this whole apparatus of your clavicle and this kind of thing, the complex there. Now, rotator cuff are these muscles that are along your shoulder blade, right? And they slip through and they go across your humerus. And what they do is they don't necessarily rotate your shoulder. What they do is they stabilize your shoulder in the planes of motion during rotation. Okay, so that's why if you were to test it, you resist it in one direction, you hold your arm like this, you resist it in one direction, resist it in another one, and you can kind of see, you can feel which ones of these muscles might be out of whack or something like that. Now, for our purposes, we're going to just try to keep the shoulder loose. The rotator cuff is one of those things that we want to keep safe. So, the important thing through all of this kind of thing is to be relaxed, first of all. Don't try to stop motion or whatever. And as we're going through here, it's almost like we're going to try to keep our arm limp, right? So that it's going to go around. We're not going to add anything to it, and we're not going to subtract anything for it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're not going to use any any effort in our shoulder. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. First of all, let's run through some shoulder exercises to get this, moving, right? Warmed up, as people say. Okay. So, the first thing we want to do is take it through a kind of long circle, right? If you need to check it, you can lift up your arm in different planes here like this. There. Now, as I reach across, this is important. What's going to be tempting is for you to shrug your shoulder, okay? And this is all of that shoulder girdle bones and all that kind of thing, trying to circumvent your rib cage, which is right here. So we're not going to do that. We're only going to go as far as our body is going to let us, right? When we feel that ending, right? So I feel this here, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm bound up. I can't really move this anymore. We're going to loosen up at the waist. And we're going to turn. Right, so that it's over here. And we're going to lift it up straight to the head. Turn the hand around. Bring it down. You see as I turn forward, and I'm going to end up like this. I'm going to come down. Okay? Now what that's doing is that's taking my arm through pretty much all of its ranges of motion. Okay? I know this doesn't seem like it's being represented, but what's happening is we're doing that right here. Okay? So that's going to be important. It's going to be this body turning. Okay? As I reach across, I turn the body, I reach up, I turn the body back. Okay? Now, if we loosen up and we do this kind of just a little bit peppy, not too hard. But what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to get our arm to rotate in that circle without using it. So we're just gonna use our body, keep our arm limp, and try to use our body by like that. Okay? So I'm gonna put this arm over here so it's on the way. You can do whatever you want with it. Right? Yeah. Right? You see? No effort, no nothing. Now, you'll hear I'm hitting my own thigh. One reason I'm doing that is to break its trajectory, right? I want to stop it from going too far. And one of the ways I can do that is by just letting it hit my leg. So, okay? And you do it with the other leg. Okay? Now, bring your shoulders forward here like this. This motion right here. Okay? What I'm doing here with the chest. The chest is out here. Okay? So, when I come in here like this, we call this tum. Right? It means to swallow. So we're swallowing everything in like that. Okay? Now, the trick is you don't want to bend from the spine. You want to separate your shoulder blades and bring all of that forward. Okay? That will create a kind of bow in your back because you're revealing your natural kyphotic curve. Right? Boom. Okay? You also kind of feel like you're tightening up your abs like this. Okay? In other arts, they call this ball, to embrace, all kinds of things. We call it twin. Okay? Now this is toe, two, full. It means to expel, to spit out. Here, so we're tum, 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 tum. Okay? This action here, very important. Okay? So we've got our rotation, We've got our abduction, adduction, and finally we've got our twister. Bringing it up like this, making sure you can go palm up to almost palm up. Now, watch my shoulder here. I'll show you. You don't want to do this. Right? We're going to go here to its furthest point. Now, we will do this later in a specific time. But for right now, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to see what our range of motion is there. Okay, so don't let the body turn. We'll do that in a moment. See? Rotate the entire thing like it's in a tube. Okay, so now using all of those movements, putting those all together, and then combining it with a simple footwork, body turn, all of that, we're going to get a movement we call Dankisho, which is single chopping hand, which is a core exercise to equal Mashitombe. The entire style kind of hinges on this one biomechanical principle, and it is seriously one of the best exercises out there that you can do by yourself. So this is a good one to learn, especially nowadays when everybody's working out by themselves and we don't have training partners to practice with. Okay, so what we will do is we'll start off with a little preparatory movement we call gumbe, which means to roll the back. Okay? If we're standing like this, okay, we're going to open up the chest like this by squeezing the shoulder blades, push back. Okay. I won't. In Tombe, we do all of that. But right now, I'm content with just getting this going. Okay, so when we do Gumbe, move this down again, just to show the feet. Okay, so from here, we're going to step out this way just a little bit. We're going to bring the toe up on this one. We're going to raise our arms. And what we're going to do, we're going to turn, you see, like this. So this foot, this arm, this arm. Now we're also going to drop down very, very low. Like that. Okay? Now, how far is this foot away from your other foot? It depends. I see different people doing different methods. I will tend to put it in different places. Sometimes it can be right next to you, right? Or it can be kind of out here like this. But the point is you're going to lift the ball of the foot and you're turning this the entire leg. See, my knee stays tracked with the toe. Okay, so I'm not letting my knees buckle. Right? So, to continue. Gumbe. Now, step out. Bring this hand up and over to this. Continue. Okay. Now, we'll go over that step by step, but let's go over the legs again, real quick. All right. Okay. So, And one more time. Okay. So. All right, so now with the arms and how it's relating to the feet or to everything. So when we're here like this, chest is out. Okay. When we go up here like this, boom, you see, we're collapsing all of this stuff in here. And then just throwing that foot out. Right? Then up and over to that side. All right? Let me see if the camera has freed itself up yet. It is not. So we continue here. Okay, so when you go to here, and I'll just do this standing here without the footwork here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be turning my body this way. So if my opponent is over here, that's what we're thinking of. I'm turning my back to them. And I know, that sounds like such a no-no, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I cannot, I don't have a partner here, so I can't show you that this is a response to a standing arm bar. Somebody gives you, starts to crank your arm over here like this, twisting through here like this, and then pulling it out like that is a good escape. Just because of the way it turns their hand, so you can pop out of the thumb. But so without doing much here with the hip, just doing the turning here like this. We're going here like this. You see, hollowed out. You come up like this. Here, chest opens, and the hands come out like this. Right? Closed, open. Right. Okay. The scapular retraction is the important mechanic here. Okay. So, with the arms, the first arm that comes over like this is the first one to chop. So it's going to make a big circle like this. We're just going to go here like this to here. Okay. This hand over here. Boom. See, it's going to come down to here as we go around, and then it's going to connect, see? So now I'm going to end up here like this. As this one comes down, this one's going to continue over the head. Then as this one comes down, the other one is going to come back up, and they're going to pass each other right here. Now you can actually hit and clap if you want, but you don't have to. And then you're back to twin. Okay? So, very, very, it's a simple action, but it's also complicated and difficult, right? But it's extremely healthy for you as far as your whole body goes. It's a great core exercise. It's a great hip stretch and all of this. A lot of times flexibility is shown as key for all this kind of thing, and I have to disagree with that to a certain extent, because it's not necessarily the flexibility that is the boon. It is the joint mobility, right, that you will have during any particular action, which is going to be the make or break thing. So while flexibility does come into joint mobility, the joint mobility to my research and to my experience is much more important than just plain old flexibility. Basically, make your joint do what you want it to do during what you do, right? Not something that's separate, like going into the splits. Going into the splits is a feat in and of itself. It has certain physiological benefits, but those particular physiological benefits aren't necessary to reaching high levels necessarily in martial art. They help, but that's what you got. Okay. So, remember to ask questions anywhere in the live chat there on Facebook or wherever you're seeing this, and I will try to answer them here at the end of the class here. So what do we got? All right, so I'm nearing the end here. So let's try to put all of this stuff together into a cohesive drill. When I go here, one. Now, to go back, I'm going to do the same thing. You see? So I'm opening up very, very fast, like that. Again, opening up that chest. Okay? When people get going to do this, be careful. Sort of what it looks like. Again, I'm being careful of the ceiling there and tight spaces, but you get the idea. It's dynamic. You can do it as much as you want. And obviously, there's no footwork or movement, no steps, so you can do this anywhere, right? As long as you fit in that space, you're golden, right? So, okay, so let's go through this real slow, okay? And I'll go through each little thing. Go back through this, do it over and over and over again. You'll get the feeling of it, okay? But we'll go through it here from the beginning. We'll start off here, beginning position, jubei, and over, ube, one, over, two. Now you see how I'm twisting in the stances, going from gongbu to mabu. You can just hold mabu and shift from one leg to the other without the twist, and then later on put that in. Now, one of the secrets to this is act like your arms are completely numb. Like you slept on them. So they're loose, noodly. You're going to be using your body to throw them around. This is much more efficient, right? It's got a bigger circumference, right? So when you rotate, less effort to go further distance, right? Compared to the shoulder. I'm just rotating at the shoulder, putting a lot of effort to make it go all the way around because it's small, right? Like a potter's wheel. Inside the potter's wheel, going around like that, has a lot of torque, not necessarily a lot of speed. You go out to the edge, and that's where the potter's wheel is moving fast, right? And if clay gets on there, you see it dribble out, but it gets faster and faster and faster until it gets to the edge. That's the kind of feeling, right? So your arms not doing a lot other than staying where they need to be, right? Your body is doing the lion's share of the work, okay? Your legs, right, as you're twisting back and forth from each stance, right, you're pushing into the ground, pumping into the ground like that, right? That's creating motion. You'll see this everywhere in arts like Pigua and even in Fanzi and Baji, the other arts that are in Manchu. It obviously is going to have most to do with Pigua. Pigua Chuan is the martial art of chopping and hanging, meaning doing this, and doing this. There it is. Okay, so that is Dan Pisho. Just a little overview of it. And obviously, it's one of these basic exercises, so you're always working on it, right? You never feel like you've mastered it. There's always something there. And that goes back to how we started today with the conversation that it may never seem easy. You will, hopefully you will always be striving for something, right? Now, this motion, even though it looks very, very large, right, and everything like that, it trains the body in very specific ways, right? So it's taking your arm through its full range of motion. It's taking your hips through these large range of motion, and it's moving over a whole lot of time. Now, we were talking about the circle where the outside's moving fast, the inside is not moving as fast, but it's got a lot of torque, got a lot of power there, right? It's just not being translated into speed necessarily because it's got a shorter distance to go, right? So if it's going this fast here, it's going to be going that fast around the circumference, right? So if we tighten up these circles, you start to get much more familiar type of movements, right? So if I take this whole thing here like this, and I compact it, right? Right? Even that, I don't have to chop. This motion here, okay? Same with your punches, okay? Like I said, this motion that we did with our punches, that's where everything's going to come through. So when this comes around here like this, yeah, sure, Yeah, okay? It's the same motion, okay? If I go under here like this, you've got your Wing Chunish elbow attack, that type of thing, covering up. If you don't even do that, you keep your elbows down, right? You've got the same stuff, right? So, big, right? Little, right? So one training is going to give you physical abilities that will transfer into the other, right? And that's really the core of it. So we never take any of these things too literally, right? No, you don't necessarily stay on the balls of your feet. You'll move from your heel to your ball, and those little details tend to come throughout people's training. So the question was, you stay on the balls of your feet through the whole series, and not really. No, you're gonna switch, but for right now, I'm not going to throw out a prescription for that because people have enough on their mind just trying to get the gross motor patterns into their system. The little details can easily be added. Right? I'll just do a tweak here, rotate here, and everything like that. And sometimes you find them yourself, right? You're watching somebody else do it, and you go, "Hey, what?" And then you try and go, "Oh, I see." Right, so all of that kind of thing. The thing is, you most of the people out there teaching have already gone through these questions and have found, the parameters for where the answers lie and all that kind of thing. So, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can ask people who have more experience and say, "Hey, why did they do this? Why did they do that?" You probably shouldn't ask, "Why do they do that?" to somebody else. You should go to the person you're asking about and say, "Hey, why do you do that?" and see if they have an answer. If they have an answer, good. If they don't, then who knows? Who knows if it's optional or not? Okay. All right. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? I do not see any. I'll check on Facebook here. Make sure that we... Okay, let's see any questions. And I think we're all right over there. All right. So, I guess we're at the end of it today. That's fine. I'll kind of wrap up here. If you can let the questions float in there if you think of any before we go. If not, I'll try to answer them on the second time around. But other than that, this exercise, this is the briefest of views of it, and the instructions can go very, very deep with it. This is literally just, okay, how do I get from point A to point B? What are the dots that I got to connect, right? And that's the thing. So you think about those, right? And you just think about these points. Think about, okay, I'm just trying to rotate my arm like that, and that's it, and that. Boom. Right? Try to keep it simple. Keep it simple in your mind. Concentrate on one thing at a time. You don't have to do the whole. You don't have to do the whole thing at the same time. So yeah, if I still remember a black belt asking a master if the move would be more effective as such in a kata. The master's response was, "It still looks like this." Yes. It still looks like this. Yeah. But yeah. And yes, it does have a lot of application to weapons, to all that kind of stuff. It's a great physical fitness exercise to do this for a little bit. Just remember, as you're starting out, be very, very gentle. Do it nice and slow. Build up tolerance to it, right? Keep the shoulders down. The ear is shoulder poison, right? The closer your shoulders get to your ears, the less safe they are, right? So if they're going up there, they got to come right back down afterward. There are certain releases and stuff like that that require you to shrug your shoulder and all that kind of thing. But right now, keep them down. Keep those shoulder blades together, and then slip them into your back pocket. All right, just down your back. So in together, down, and that will get them to kind of go out like that and keep them from winging and that kind of thing. So, all right. I will leave you all there. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you watching, for you watching after the fact, I know there's a lot of people that tune in after the broadcast. Welcome and enjoy. So we will be here next week, same time. Tomorrow at this time will be Sword Lab, so we'll be going over some more weapon stuff, as in the origin of lightsaber technique and that kind of thing. So tune in for that tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time. I can never remember. But yes, 6 o'clock in the evening tomorrow if you're on the East Coast of the USA or in Canada. And figure it out from there. We will see you then. Have a good night. Patience, practice, perseverance. See you later.